The air in the house was thick with tension, a palpable force that clung to every surface. I could feel it as soon as I walked through the front door, a heaviness that seemed to have taken residence in our home. It was a typical Tuesday evening, but something about this one felt different. I had just come home from a long day at work, hoping for a quiet evening to unwind. Instead, I was greeted by a sink overflowing with dirty dishes, a sight that had become all too familiar. My son Jake was sprawled on the couch, engrossed in his phone, seemingly oblivious to the chaos he left in his wake. I took a deep breath, attempting to suppress the frustration that threatened to bubble over. "Jake, how many times have I asked you to do the dishes?" I sighed, my tone a mix of wariness and exasperation. He glanced up from his phone, eyes meeting mine briefly before returning to the screen. "I'll do it later, Mom. I've got stuff to do." Later. That word had become a constant refrain, a promise that was seldom fulfilled. I felt my patience wearing thin, worn away by the repeated battles over something as simple as cleaning up after oneself. "No, Jake, you need to do it now. We've talked about this," I replied, my voice firm. He let out an exasperated sigh, setting his phone down reluctantly. "Why does it even matter? It's just dishes." "It matters because this is your responsibility. You can't keep putting it off," I said, my frustration leaking into my words. The tension between us thickened as I gestured towards the overflowing sink. "Look at this, Jake. This is not okay. You can't keep living like this." He rolled his eyes, a gesture that felt like a dagger to my patience. "It's not a big deal. I'll get to it when I feel like it." And that was it, the breaking point. I felt a surge of anger, frustration, and a tinge of desperation. The dishes weren't just dishes, they were a symbol of a larger issue. With a sudden determination, I decided that enough was enough. I couldn't let this cycle continue, and in that moment, I made a choice that would set the stage for a confrontation neither of us saw coming. The days following the breaking point were a haze of contemplation and inner conflict. As a 49-year-old mother, I found myself grappling with a dilemma that many parents face: how to balance being a friend and a disciplinarian. The dishes had become more than just a chore. They were a mirror reflecting the deeper issues at hand. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow through the living room window, I found myself sitting across from Jake. It was time to address the underlying problem, to navigate the delicate balance between nurturing and disciplining. "Jake, we need to talk about more than just the dishes," I began, choosing my words carefully. He looked up from his textbook, a mix of curiosity and apprehension in his eyes. "What's there to talk about, Mom? It's just chores." I leaned forward, my hands clasped together, trying to convey the weight of my concerns. "It's not just about chores, Jake. It's about responsibility, respect, and understanding that we all have a part to play in maintaining this home." He scoffed, a defense mechanism that I had grown accustomed to. "It's not like anyone cares. It's just us." "But we do care, Jake." "I care," I replied, my voice steady. "I want you to understand the importance of these responsibilities, not just for the sake of a clean house, but for your own growth and development." The room fell into a thoughtful silence, broken only by the distant hum of the evening outside. I could see the gears turning in Jake's mind, the internal struggle between rebellion and acceptance. "Mom, it just feels like you're always on my case about this stuff. Can't I just live my life without all these rules?" He finally said, a hint of frustration in his voice. I took a deep breath, choosing my words with even more care. "I'm not trying to control your life, Jake. I just want to make sure you're equipped with the skills and values that will help you navigate the world outside these walls. It's my responsibility as your mother to guide you, even if it means we clash sometimes." He sighed, a mixture of defiance and resignation. "Can't we just go back to the way things were?" I shook my head, a gentle but firm response. "We can't go back, Jake. We can only move forward. And moving forward means finding a balance between rules and understanding, between being a mother and being your ally." Little did I know that the journey ahead would test that delicate balance in ways I could never have anticipated. The dishes were just the beginning of a much larger lesson in the intricate dance of motherhood. The evening was tense as we gathered around the dinner table, a silent anticipation hanging in the air. The clink of cutlery against plates became a rhythm of unspoken tension, a prelude to the showdown that awaited us. As we sat down, the dishes from earlier still untouched, I couldn't ignore the weight of the unresolved issue. The atmosphere crackled with an energy that hinted at the storm brewing beneath the surface. It was time to address the elephant in the room. "Jake, we can't keep avoiding this," I said, breaking the uneasy silence. "We need to talk about the dishes, and not just the dishes, but what they represent." He looked up, his eyes meeting mine with a mixture of defiance and wariness. "Can't we just have a normal dinner for once, Mom?" "This is about what's normal, Jake," I replied, my voice calm but firm. "A normal routine includes responsibilities, and avoiding them won't make them disappear." He sighed, pushing his food around on his plate. "I don't get why it's such a big deal. It's just dishes." "It's not just about the dishes, Jake. It's about accountability and respecting the space we share," I explained, trying to convey the depth of my concern. His frustration bubbled to the surface. "Why do you always have to make everything so complicated? Can't we just eat in peace?" I could feel the tension escalating, the words we both wanted to say hanging in the air like a storm cloud, but this was a conversation we couldn't avoid any longer. "We can't ignore this, Jake. It's been ignored for too long," I said, my voice unwavering. "You need to understand that your actions have consequences, and this is one of them." He slammed his fork down, the clatter echoing through the room. "Consequences? Seriously, Mom?" "Yes, consequences," I replied, determined to make him see. "You can't expect to live without responsibilities. It's a part of life, whether you like it or not." The room fell into a heavy silence, the weight of our words hanging in the air. The clash of wills reached its peak as we sat there, each of us waiting for the other to yield. Little did I know that this dinner table showdown would be the catalyst for a series of events that would reshape our relationship in ways I couldn't have foreseen. The battle lines were drawn, and we were both about to learn the consequences of our choices. The days that followed the dinner table showdown were filled with a lingering tension, an unspoken understanding that something had to give. It was time to break the cycle, to address the issue head-on. And so, with a determined heart, I made an unconventional decision that would test the boundaries of our relationship. One evening, as the dishes continued to pile up in the sink, I called Jake into the kitchen. The air crackled with an intensity that mirrored the storm brewing within me. "Jake, we can't keep going on like this. It's time for a change," I said, my voice carrying a weight of resolution. He looked at me, a mix of curiosity and defiance in his eyes. "What are you talking about, Mom?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "If you won't take responsibility for the dishes, then you'll have to face the consequences. From now on, if you don't wash your dishes, you'll have to eat off them until you do." His eyes widened in disbelief, a mix of shock and indignation playing on his face. "You can't be serious, Mom. That's ridiculous." "I am serious, Jake. It's time for both of us to understand the gravity of our actions," I replied, my tone unwavering. "This isn't just about dishes. It's about accountability and learning the consequences of neglecting our responsibilities." He scoffed, a nervous laugh escaping his lips. "You're kidding, right? You can't make me do that." "I'm not making you do anything. I'm giving you a choice to take responsibility for your actions or face the natural consequences," I explained, a firmness in my gaze. The room fell into a charged silence as he processed the weight of my words. It was a moment of truth, a crossroads that would define the path we took from that point forward. "Fine, whatever. If that's what it takes to make you happy," he finally said, a reluctant acceptance in his voice. Little did we know that this seemingly unconventional decision would set the stage for a unique journey, a journey that would challenge our preconceptions and redefine the dynamics of our relationship. The dishes, now laden with symbolic significance, became the battleground for a lesson in responsibility that neither of us anticipated. The kitchen, once a battlefield of stubbornness and frustration, now became a classroom for both of us. The dishes, piled high with a history of neglect, were the textbooks in this unconventional lesson on responsibility. One evening, as the sink overflowed with unwashed plates, I found Jake standing there, eyeing the dishes with a mix of reluctance and resignation. "You know what you have to do," I said, my voice calm but resolute. He sighed, rolling up his sleeves as if preparing for a battle he had no choice but to face. "This is ridiculous, Mom. Can't we just go back to how things were?" "This is how things are now, Jake. We can't go back, but we can move forward," I replied, handing him a sponge. "It's time to learn the importance of completing the tasks we start." As he scrubbed away at the first dish, I could sense the discomfort in the air. The sound of running water and the occasional clink of dishes filled the silence, punctuated by a few muttered curses under his breath. "This is so stupid," he grumbled, glancing in my direction. "It may seem that way now, but trust me, there's a lesson in all of this," I said, trying to instill a sense of purpose in the mundane task. Days turned into weeks, and the kitchen became our arena for silent communication. The dishes transformed from a symbol of defiance to a medium through which we navigated unspoken understanding. One evening, as we worked side by side in companionable silence, Jake broke the quietude. "I still don't get why you're making such a big deal out of this," he said, pausing in his scrubbing. "Because, Jake, life is full of responsibilities, big and small. Learning to manage them is a crucial part of growing up," I explained, drying a freshly cleaned plate. He nodded, a begrudging acknowledgement of a truth he was beginning to comprehend. "I guess it's just weird doing it this way." "Weird, maybe, but effective," I replied, offering a small smile. Sometimes, unconventional methods lead to the most profound lessons. In the kitchen, surrounded by the clatter of dishes and the shared effort of restoring order, we found a unique form of communication. The lessons learned in those moments went beyond the cleanliness of the plates. They extended into the realm of mutual understanding and the gradual dismantling of walls that had stood between us. The journey was far from over, but the kitchen had become a place of transformation, a canvas for the evolving dynamics of our relationship. As the days passed and the dishes gradually became a routine rather than a battleground, the lessons learned in the kitchen rippled through our lives, transcending the realm of chores. One evening, as we sat in the living room, a sense of calm had settled over the house. The tension that once lingered in the air had dissipated, replaced by a newfound understanding between mother and son. "Mom, I never thought doing the dishes could be such a big deal," Jake admitted, breaking the silence. "It's not just about the dishes, Jake. It's about the values we instill and the responsibilities we carry," I replied, a warmth in my voice. "Life is filled with these seemingly mundane tasks that shape our character." He nodded, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I guess I never really thought about it that way." Our conversations no longer revolved around the dishes alone, but expanded to encompass broader topics: responsibility, accountability, and the intricacies of adulthood. The kitchen had become a metaphor for life's challenges, and our journey together went beyond the scrubbing of plates. One weekend, as we tackled a long overdue spring cleaning, Jake remarked, "Who knew cleaning the house could actually be kinda satisfying?" "It's all about taking pride in your space, Jake. A clean environment can do wonders for your mindset," I said, handing him a duster. As we worked side by side, a sense of camaraderie blossomed. Our unconventional approach had sparked a change in perspective, fostering communication that went beyond the superficial. The once dreaded chores became opportunities for us to connect, share, and understand each other on a deeper level. In the quiet moments of our evenings, I found Jake opening up about his dreams, fears, and the challenges he faced. The walls that had stood between us had crumbled, revealing a bond strengthened by the shared experiences in our journey beyond the dishes. "Thanks, Mom," Jake said one evening, a genuine smile playing on his lips. "I never thought I'd say this, but I appreciate what you're trying to teach me. I appreciate your willingness to learn, Jake. It's a two-way street, I replied, feeling a sense of fulfillment that went beyond the completion of household tasks. Our story wasn't just about a mother teaching her son the importance of chores. It was about the transformative power of unconventional lessons, the resilience of familial bonds, and the beauty that emerged when we embraced the unexpected twists life threw our way. The dishes were just the beginning, and as we navigated the challenges beyond them, our journey unfolded into a shared narrative of growth, understanding, and the enduring love between a mother and her son.